Hey, welcome back to Next Third, Best Third. I'm David Fenwick, the founder and your host. And today I'm so pleased to be joined by my friend Herb Moffett. Herb is, you'll find out he's a Renaissance man, and he does so many things. One of them that he does is he leads what he calls Warrior Training School. And we're going to talk today about the being warriors in our minds, about capturing our thoughts, about realigning ourselves with truth, about replacing lies and really being transformed as we renew our mind. So much of Next Third, Best Third is entering in with the proper mindset. If you're really going to live with intentionality, your thought life is critical. So with that, Herb, welcome.
All right. Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. So
exciting.
why don't you just start a little bit about yourself and then we'll just jump right in.
All right. Well, I do want to say one thing first, though, that Warrior Training School, my wife founded Warrior Training School in 2020. I came on as a student in her first year, and of the 12 of us, 7 of us graduated after 4 years, and it's a dynamic program.
Yeah.
So I'm the pastor of the year 1 and year 2, so I oversee those 2 years. But the curriculum and everything, God sat her down in 2019 and said, write down everything I taught you.
That's so great.
She wrote it down. Those were the 12 lessons of year 1. And then she wrote every lesson for the next 4 years until the culmination. Now all 4 years have all their workbooks. And so I am part of the leadership, but the brainstorm and the weight and the burden of bringing that into the earth was all her. So I want to make sure that she gets
that's
honor and
great
credit
clarity,
for that.
and thanks. Your lovely bride Kenesha is a superwoman. I know
Yes,
that.
she is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So that's so great. Okay, so
So about me, well, like you said, Renaissance man. For me, sometimes it's like, where do I start? So I am an Air Force veteran. My wife affectionately calls me G.I. Joe Jr. because my dad was a career soldier. Also spent some time working contracts for DOD and being a computer programmer. Went to the Air Force after 9/11. During that downturn, became a disciple of Jesus in 2005, sitting in Tucson, Arizona. My wife and I had an experience, heated fellowship we like to call. This one was a little more heated than most. And come to realize, well, my life really wasn't dedicated to the Lord in the way that it should have been. And this is where I began to understand, well, what is my identity? Who am I? What am I thinking about myself?
right.
And there were some men at the church that we were going to at the time, we were members of in Arizona, one of the historically black churches there. And these men were also veterans, like my dad. But the difference was they had sold themselves out to the Lord. Well, they saw the condition that I was in and said, we can help you. And literally locked arms with me. And through their accountability, through the thoughts and the words that they were imparting into me during that phase of my life, really made an impact and a shift beyond what my wife had done, beyond her prayers for me, because who you see sitting here now is all because of her prayers. And these men at this church, their prayers and their thoughts, and the pastor of that church really seeing me for who I was in the Lord before I saw it, and ushered me into this new life of being a disciple. It wasn't until, a year or so later that one of the guys in the squadron, seeing my walk with the Lord, was like, oh, yeah, your nickname's Preacher.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so
I love this because, so often, and this is part of what we do here, is get men to gather around men and encourage and live with that intentionality. But what you're saying is that to change sometimes the way we think about ourselves, you need other men to call out the truth, call out the gold, I say,
Absolutely.
inside of you, because you get that stinking thinking about yourself, and next thing you know, you get these guys rallying around you saying, hey, that's not who you really are.
Right. Yeah. Or just giving you a different thought or a different model.
Right.
I'll never forget one of the men. It was Christmas time. we were short on cash of, being a young marriage, and we were still in our mid-20s, and 2 kids, and nobody joins the military to get rich. So there's that. We were at a point to where Christmas wasn't going to be all that it could have been, because it was like, get presents or get a tree. Mm-hmm. And so I was just sharing this with one of the brothers at church, and he stopped me and was like, you always have a tree for your family. You always do what you can do to make it festive. And then, loaded handshake later, we were getting a Christmas tree. But that stuck with me to understand that I have a part to play in the temperature of our home. That's when right. It comes to the holidays, especially. And so if I'm bummed out, then the rest of the family's going to be bummed out. And like you said, that starts with the thoughts that we have. Mm-hmm. And in that phase, I was learning how to change my thoughts. I was going through the process of renewing my mind, as Romans 12 encourages us. So in order for my thought life to have changed, I had to separate myself from secular thinking, secular sources of information, and then switch that to kingdom thinking, which of course starts with the Bible, but it also starts with, who am I listening to?
That's right.
What voices am I allowing to speak into my life? And once I began to shift those to godly advice, then I began to see a change, a real change in my thoughts, and then from there, a real change in my behaviors.
That's so good. Mm-hmm. I was thinking of, there's a proverb, I believe it's in Proverbs, maybe it's in Psalms, where it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so Absolutely. Is he.
Absolutely.
And so it's, what are we dwelling on? What are we feeding ourselves, so to speak? And I know myself, I have gone through very similar changes over the years. Being in business, I was bivocational, so I was a pastor and I was working all the time.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, and just so busy sometimes that I would find myself thinking about business all the time, or thinking about performing as a pastor, right?
Right.
What am I supposed to look like? What am I supposed to do?
Right.
And then just finding myself almost starving my thought life, because I wasn't really pursuing truth. Yeah. I wasn't, taking time to spend time with God, take time in the Word of God, take time reading books that would build me up, right?
Yeah, yeah. And speaking about that, spending time with God, that's one of the main points and focuses of our Warrior Training School in that first year is, through the Christian disciplines, get more intimate in your relationship with the Lord. Mm-hmm. It is so encouraged. The first month we start off with prayer. The second month is it's prayer, and then it's solitude, and just that sitting before the Lord, quiet, waiting to hear Him speak and say something, profoundly changes the way you think, especially about yourself. And I know when I first practiced solitude with our school, one of the first things I heard God say was, "Well, who are you?" And I thought it was like, well, He doesn't know me, but it wasn't like that. It was Him getting me to look at my life and go through what we call our life timeline, and see everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then see how that weighs out, not in a balancing of scales, but who have I become since surrendering my life to Him? And it was an amazing exercise. Gave me a lot of confidence.
That's so interesting, because, a big part of Next Third, Best Third is, we talked about this earlier, about investing in the future you. Yeah. No matter what age you're at right now, you're actually investing in the future you. Mm-hmm. And men so often, because they've been builders and they've gotten to the place they are, and they look at they find themselves, and I think going and doing that timeline and saying, how did I get here?
Yep.
Right? Yep. No matter... a lot of the guys who listen to us aren't Christians. Some of them don't have any faith whatsoever. Some they're from all over. But it's true for every man that we could take this, look back at, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. That's that honest appraisal, right? And then creating a plan of intentionality of where I want to go.
Right.
So you have to know how you got here before you can really know where you're going to go.
Absolutely.
And that's all up here.
Yeah, yeah. And so through that exercise, I saw that and realized there is a lot that God has put in me to give out. That confidence coming from Him then went on into as we talked about before, the founding of Warrior Men. Now it's founded, it's in the earth, it's beginning to grow legs. Mm-hmm. Right now, the ecclesia that I'm leading is called the Family Man, where we're learning that, initiating ownership, taking ownership, initiating, being that, doing that continuously, but then also reforming our minds.
Right.
What is our thought life? And like you said, this is an area, an issue for all men, no matter what faith you are, or how you slice it up, or how you express it. We all have the same point we come to is, what have I done? And if there are any regrets, is there any way that I can right those wrongs? And again, when we start dwelling on those things from a negative place, that's what I've seen, even for myself, just get down into the muck and the mire of, what have I done with my life? Because we all start out life with certain goals. I think I made my goals a little too simplistic, because my wife, when we met, in the course of dating, and she's like, well, what are your goals? What do you want to be? What do you see yourself, being successful at? And I told her, I just want to be two things. I want to be a great dad and a good husband. Great dad, great husband. Good dad, good husband. No conquer the world, no, my name on a building, none of that. I want my kids to know me, love me. I want my wife to know me, love me. And I want to be there for them as much as I'm capable of being there.
You say that's simplistic, but in all honesty, that's really the highest call.
Oh, yes.
Because
found out.
Because so often, right, men, we have these goals. I want to accomplish this. I want to own my own company. I want to do, which is all good.
Yeah, it is.
But so often, it leads to a epidemic called absentee father.
Yeah.
I was speaking with a gentleman this week about statistics about fatherless homes in America, and we lead the world in fatherless homes. 24% of all homes in America are fatherless.
Yeah.
But what's more dangerous, in my opinion, or equally dangerous at least, is the one that you can't measure, and that's the absentee father. That's the man in the house who's checked out.
Yep.
The man in the house who's too busy. The man in the house who's not the thermostat that you were talking about, setting the temperature. He comes in and he's a thermometer maybe.
Yeah.
But we're called to really set the temperature in all aspects. So your goal of being a great husband and a great father, that's commendable.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It took me about 28 years to get to the point to where I'm like, yes, that is a good goal because of that, because the other thing is that men have a tendency of, if it's not competition, it's, I don't want to be seen as less than the next man that I'm sitting to. And again, we're called to love our neighbor as ourselves. And if we're thinking about ourselves less than, then we might want to love our neighbor, but we're going to try and love them in a way that we want the world to love us. But we got to start that with us.
That's strong.
And that self-care is mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, which I am teaching guys who come into our school. We got to be vulnerable and authentic. We have to be transparent. We have to have a space that's safe enough for us to do that. But that also, again, that safe space starts with our thought life. When I'm looking in the mirror at myself, whether it's a good day or a bad day, can I be proud of who I'm looking at right now? And for some guys, that's not today. But someone the thought of, that is who I want to be. I want to be a man of honor, integrity, sacrificially loving, unconditionally loving. Those are things that we can grow to. But a lot of times, especially in Western society, as soon as we think a thing, we want to be the thing.
Right.
And there's a gap that God puts in there to grow us to that point. So when we get there and we are that thing, we can maintain it.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting take. And, the 5 pillars, the next third, best third, that we try to have men purposely attack, let's say, are, your thought life, your physical life, your emotional life, your
Yeah.
relationships,
Yeah.
and then your identity issues. Those
Yes.
what I call spiritual. But it starts with your thought life. That's why we list that first.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I know that I hope men get from this is that what you partner with, what you're in agreement with, will define you.
Absolutely.
So if you're looking at yourself and saying, whatever the negative thought about yourself, I've been a failure, or I haven't made enough money, you're whatever those things may be. Instead of, I'm starting at my age to finally make real declarations of myself.
Yeah.
Things like your best years are ahead of you. You're going to be
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
You are honorable. You are loved. You are enough. Things like this. And I know that might sound almost silly to some guys, but that's not. I mean, it's powerful.
It is. It is. Even if you look on YouTube, you'll see some of the highest watched motivational videos. That's where they start, secular or Christian.
That's right.
Or any faith. They all come to, well, what are you thinking about?
That's right.
And are you thinking about what you're thinking about? I heard a pastor say that years ago. It's like, we got to be thinking about what we're thinking about. We can't just have thoughts come into our minds. And that's so important, because our minds, I see them like a walled city. And the scripture says that, a city without walls can be overtaken easily. And I'm paraphrasing that, but the visual is, I've got to have guards around my thinking, because you're right. Whatever I partner with, whatever I agree with, if I don't cast that vain imagination and apply it to what God says about me, that is where the enemy takes hold. And that's that stronghold. Once he gets that, he has a legal right to it, and he'll hold on to it until we go through the renunciation of that agreement with that word. Because the devil is a legalist. We like to say that he is a legalist. He knows the law. He knows what we're supposed to be doing better than we do, and he's going to hold us to it. That's why he's the accuser of the brethren. Yeah. I'm so thankful that we have Jesus as our as our defending counsel, because, man, where would we be without him? And so that's why it's important to have that guard, because he's constantly sending thoughts our way of defeat or of depressive thoughts, or just little things to get us away from focusing on, okay, am I hearing God? What is he saying to me? How is he leading me? Yeah. How am I thinking about my family going forward, or myself going forward? And so sowing into our current thought life now will set us up for the next 5-10 years, maybe the next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's sometimes I think, we're like, well, we have negative thoughts and then we got to change those. A lot of times when a guy's getting into his 50s and 60s and things like that, it's not that he has real negative thoughts. He's just complacent. He's just at that point where, it's this is my life. This is my lot in life, and that's where I want to inspire men to say, no, dream again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You got to be dreaming. You got to have goals. You've got to be excited about life, and to do so, a lot of times, like men who are my age, your age, my age, out of shape, they're like, well, there's no, they're not even trying to get in shape. You got to change your thinking about your health.
Yes. Absolutely.
You have to be intentional about your thoughts about your health, your thoughts about your physical conditions.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking about your emotions. You have to be thinking about your relationships. I'm going to meet a new man, a new guy this week. I'm going to make a new friend this week.
Right.
That's changing the way you're thinking.
Yep.
Instead of just being complacent and not thinking negative.
Right.
But you're certainly not thinking with any positive goals.
Or any intentionality, like you said.
Right.
And thinking about our physical health is also very important, and definitely something that I've ascribed to, I'll say, since joining the Air Force. Before that, I was not into being in shape at all. Worked out, sometimes. But once I had to and saw the benefits of it, it was something that I latched on to, that I was like, I'll never let go of this.
Yeah.
Because I met up with friends from high school when I was about in my 30s, and seeing how they were, seeing how I am. When we got back to Germany, did a PT test, and I passed it with 100. I'm like, wow. And I was 30. I'm like, I'm in the best shape of my life at a point in life when statistically and scientifically, everything is supposed to be starting to slide downhill.
Right.
And here I was going the other direction. The only thing that changed was my active lifestyle. Besides the PT, the physical training that we did, we started hiking. We started enjoying going and being outdoors. We had always enjoyed it, but now let's take it to the next level. Let's hike to this lake that's maybe 5 miles away. Let's train ourselves to the point to where we can walk 20 miles, we can hike 20 miles.
Right.
So,
but it starts with a thought.
absolutely.
I look at you, 48, you're in great shape. You're
Thank you.
in better shape than any 48-year-old, I started working, I worked out off and on during my life, but when I hit 50 is when I started to be much more intentional.
Yeah.
And that's when I started wanting to run marathons, and I want to do a triathlon, but I'm not good on a bike. I could run and swim, but I'm not good on a bike.
Okay.
But I had to make decisions, and then there was a time between 50 and where I am now where life hit me hard, things were happening, and I just didn't work out. And
that happens.
Yeah, I won't go into the story, but it's something like a carpet pulled out from under me, right?
Yeah.
And so I found myself when I was 60, not in good shape, skinny fat, just not in good shape at all. And I made a decision that's what I came up with. The next third of my life is going to be the best third.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew I had to decide here that I was going to work out and I was going to get in shape.
Yeah.
And now, at my age, I'm in better shape than most 66-year-olds,
Yeah, I heard it put this way: I'd rather be the oldest guy in the gym than the youngest guy in the nursing home.
That's right.
And I serve as a chaplain here in the Austin area as well, to several nursing or active adult living facilities. And that's the constant thing I hear from the men in there are, hey, take care of yourself now so you don't have to later.
Right.
Pay for it up front so you don't have to pay for it later.
See, those kind of mantras, those kind of things are so powerful.
They are. They are, especially when you learn it from someone who's either where you're trying to be or is beyond that. And so I'm always looking to older gentlemen for wisdom. My dad just turned 76, and I asked him, like, Dad, you've lived 3/4 of a life. If our lifespan is 100,
right?
What advice would you give? Another thought I'm at, what's another thought I can take for, my next season? As long as you're breathing, you've got time to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. Whatever you haven't accomplished probably wasn't meant for you to accomplish it. Okay, so take that for what it is. As long as I'm breathing, I've got time. And that is the one thought that the enemy tries to get us to latch on to is, I don't have time.
That's right.
Or I'm running out of time. And that's just a lie.
Or it's too late for me.
That's right.
See, that's what, when I talk to men, especially about physical condition, especially the guys, my peers, my ages, they really believe a lie that it's too late for them. Yeah. I'm too overweight. I'm on too much medication.
Yeah.
It hurts too much. I've got arthritis, and all this. And I tell them all the time, saying, no, don't keep repeating that.
Right.
Say, my dad used to have this saying, and I've held on to it. He always used to say, today is the first day of the rest of your life.
Amen. That's good.
Right? Simple.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, sometimes I look in the mirror and I go, David, today's the first day of the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Make it a good one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I try to figure out in my mind, make a plan for the day.
Right.
And execute it. And then at the end of the day, I don't beat myself up if I didn't accomplish it.
Yeah.
But more times than not, Herb, I find I accomplished the goals I set for myself that day.
Yeah.
Because I made a plan.
That's right. And we do have to make a plan for our thinking.
That's right.
So, in the morning, my plan is, spend time with the Lord first, get his thoughts on the day, go to his word, spend some time meditating on that, and then I'll scan the news headlines. And that's mainly so I'll know how to pray, for the world, but then also to understand who I might run into, because you never know who God's going to bring before you. And if I'm gathering all these, thoughts from the world first and then from the Lord, then it's all mixed up. But if I get his thoughts first, when I see what's going on in the world and I'm talking to somebody about that, then he is able to speak into me what he wants for that person to hear at that moment about that thing. And not to make it spooky or anything, but just having the gift of knowledge and being able to have an ear to him, to hear him, is such an amazing gift and honor, because he's always wanting to speak to us. And so knowing what the headlines are talking about, but not reading into them, allows me to then be able to hear God and then use his voice.
That's good.
In that situation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
While you were talking, I was thinking, like, for you as a believer, you start your day spending it with the Lord,
yes.
right? And that's critical. For those who aren't, what I would suggest is start your day in silence, in solitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
And start writing things out, like your goals, the goals for today. A friend of mine, Danny Silk, he's has this group called Dragon Slayers.
Okay.
And Danny he's got he's one of my favorite guys to listen to speak.
Yeah, amazing ministry.
But he said this one time, and it really stuck with me. He said he wrote out 100 dreams. And
Wow.
he says, I want you to write out 100 dreams for your life.
Wow.
At 48, at 66, right? And they could even be some dreams that you've had all your life but are unfulfilled.
Okay.
And I started doing it, and Herb, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't get to 100.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But I've been building my list.
Okay.
And while I was doing it, I don't know if I told you this, but when I was doing it, one of my dreams was I wanted to be, when I was a boy, I wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
A Hollywood actor.
Okay.
And so I wrote that out, and I was thinking about it, and lo and behold, I meet this couple who are from Hollywood. They go to our church now, and they started this amazing acting school in Austin called Playhouse ATX.
Okay.
Playhouse West is the largest or most prolific acting school in America. There's 3 of them. This is the 4th.
Wow.
About 6 weeks ago, I started taking acting classes.
Well, look at that. Proof that it's not too late.
No,
Wow.
it's not too late.
Yeah.
But follow your dreams. Write your dreams
Yeah.
no matter where you are, right?
Yeah.
So whether you're a believer or not, just get alone and write out some dreams. Stimulate yourself and meditate upon those. We bring them to God, but meditate upon those and say,
Yeah.
man, I am going to accomplish this.
Yeah. Amen.
And if you start there, that's a place of renewing your mind in a major way,
Absolutely.
because you're stirring yourself up. Because
Yeah.
your dreams aren't only here, they're in here.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you're connecting the heart-mind right there.
Absolutely.
So this has been great. Thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
And for all of you, if you do me a favor, if you'd subscribe, if you'd like, if you'd share this, comment, it all helps us get messages of hope, messages of inspiration, great material out to men that they can make the next third their very best third. See you next time.